If I said the words German Hot Pocket to you, you're going to be confused. You're not going to know what I'm talking about. You're going to go to Urban Dictionary and get scarred for life. So I'm not going to call it a German Hot Pocket, even though that's what it really is. It's called a Runza or a Bierock. It's delicious, and we're going to make it today. Stick around. So what is a Runza or a Bierock? Who's this guy in the picture over here? Allow me to explain. Runza is a fast food joint in Nebraska. This guy is Garrett Mitchell, also known as Cleetus McFarland. He's a big car YouTube guy, owns a racetrack down here in Florida, does a lot of whole crazy things, and really interesting. I'm a big fan of his. And I was watching one of his videos one day, and he had gone back home to Nebraska, and they went to this place called Runza. And it's almost like a Hot Pocket. It's soft dough with ground beef and cabbage and onions, and it just looked so good. I had to try making it. I had to try it for myself because I'm not going to Nebraska anytime soon, so I got to make it here in Florida. I did it for you guys. It's amazing. I hope you make it. Let's get it done. So every good pastry starts out with good dough, and that's where we're going to start. So in the bowl of our stand mixer, we're going to go with 4.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast. That's 2 envelopes. And then just a pinch of sugar just to give the yeast something to eat while it blooms. Happy yeast, that's what we want. This is 3/4 cup of whole milk and 1/2 cup of water that we've heated up to 100 to 110 degrees. Don't go over 110 degrees. You'll kill the yeast, not bloom it. So go for 105. Give it a mix. I'm going to let this sit for about 10 minutes to see if it starts foaming up. Just like that. We want it to foam up. We know our yeast is good and healthy. It's reproducing, it's eating. Then we're going to add 1 stick, which is 1/2 cup, of unsalted butter. Unsalted is key because we want to try and control the salt content of this. If you go with salted butter, you may end up with too salty of a dough. This dough ends up having the consistency of a soft dinner roll. It's really quite amazing. So we're going to get the butter in there. That butter's been softened. 1/4 cup of sugar. And then 2 eggs. That's actually 2 eggs. That one's having twins. We kept it in there anyway because why not? Now we're going to add our flour. This is about 580 grams of all-purpose flour. Please measure your flour in grams. I know it's weird. You got to do a conversion. You're used to cups, but cups you can pack and then have too much. So always measure in grams. And then 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. We're going to go to our stand mixer, start on low speed. You'll know you need to turn the speed up when when the motor starts to struggle. Then you increase the speed. Now you want to keep an eye on this. We want a tacky dough. If you need to add more flour, do so a tablespoon at a time. I had to, so add a tablespoon, then let it run, see how it is, check it out. The humidity, your actual flour brand, they're all slightly different, so just go a tablespoon at a time, run it for a few minutes, start off low, then crank it up high, and then once you have a tacky dough, we're good to go. There we go. Just barely sticking to the edges. Once we lift it up with a little bit of help, it'll pop right off that dough hook. Look at that. Then we're going to add a little bit more flour on the board. We just want to get the dough incorporated and started. So there we go. We'll knead it a little bit. It doesn't really need much kneading. There's a lot of moisture in there, but there's also a lot of fat in there from the butter. Get a nice, pretty dough ball. Look at that. It's so pretty. I love dough. Good game. Now I'm going to put this into a bowl that we sprayed down with some cooking spray, and then we're going to spritz the top of it just so when it rises it doesn't stick to anything. We're going to cover it over with plastic wrap and name it after our other favorite YouTuber, Josh Weissman. This one's for you, Josh. Congratulations on your cookbook success. By the way, if you don't have Josh's cookbook, go get it. Then we're going to let this rise for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And then we're going to address our meat mixture. So this is I would say this is probably a medium to small head of cabbage. Pickings were kind of slim. So we're going to cut it in half and cut out that hard core in the middle. We want to live hardcore. We just don't want to deal with a hardcore in our cabbage. So we're going to use about half of this. We want 4 cups of chopped cabbage. You could probably chop it a little bit finer than I did. The pieces were a little bit chunky. Don't take your fingers off, though. That would not be good. But just give it a chopping. That's good. Cabbage is so delicious. Any yucky pieces, get rid of. Then I'm going to go with an onion. So I guess a bit medium onion. I'm going to cut it to about a 1/4-inch dice or so. Doesn't have to be too fine. Doesn't have to be perfectly even. This is going to cook down into almost nothingness with our meat. That's just for flavor. Chop them both. Onions are so delicious, they make me cry. Look at that. All right. Now in our pan over medium-high heat, we're going to add our onion. Let it start to sizzle. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. And then we're going to add 2 pounds of lean ground beef. This is 90-10 ground beef. I didn't grind it myself. I bought it because it was on sale. I'm going to break this up as it cooks. We don't want it to be too fine, but we don't want big chunks of meat. And then we're going to realize we should have went with a bigger pot. So we'll just change that over and continue cooking. Make sure you have the right size pot, please. I'm looking at it thinking, how am I going to fit all this cabbage in there? So I changed it over. No harm, no foul. This wasn't the only mistake I made. Stay tuned. You'll see the other one, which you can avoid. That's 1 teaspoon of pepper and 2 teaspoons of seasoned salt. And that's it. That's our seasoning. That's all that's in there. Nothing else. It's so simple. The only thing left to add is our cabbage. We're going to put that in. We're going to cook it for about 15 to 20 minutes just until the cabbage is soft. Any of those big chunks, if they don't break up as it cooks, so you can take them out. But most of those are just tightly packed leaves of cabbage, and they'll break up apart. Like I said, about 15-20 minutes, it's going to get nice and soft. Cabbage can be very tough. That's why you got to cook it to make it tender. And there we go. That's perfect. We're going to dump this into a colander that's in a bowl, and we're going to let the excess liquid drain off so it's not too wet when we fill them. Now it's time to readdress our dough, punch out the extra air, and then completely abuse it for no good reason at all, aside from the fact that it just feels good on our fingers. Now we're going to weigh the dough out. Very important to have them even. Otherwise you'll have different size runzas. You don't want that. So weigh it out and then portion it out. Do it in grams so it's easy to divide. And then just, put a lump on, take off, add, subtract as necessary. Now once it's time to fill our runzas, we're going to roll each dough piece into a little bit of a log. It makes it easier to get that rectangle shape. And then this rolling pin, I love for this because it's wider in the middle than it is on the end. So as you need to move the dough along the edges, you can kind of push down on that side and it, kind of rolls a little off kilter, if you will. And they end up rolling almost a perfect rectangle. It's great. The link for this is down in the description. I highly recommend you get it. It's inexpensive, but totally, totally worth it. Look at that. Look at that. Beautiful. Now, 1/2 cup of our meat mixture, we're going to plop on in there. And then to seal it is super easy. We don't have to put any egg or anything, no water. We're just going to fold it over. We're going to use thumbkins in there to stick it in. Roll it over, the seam side down, tuck those ends in, and that's it. That's it. As we put it on, as it sits on the cookie sheet, the baking sheet, and as it cooks, it's going to seal. Now we're going to do it with cheese. 1 slice of government cheese torn in half. Our 1/2 cup of meat and cabbage. Pop it right on there. And then, same thing. Roll it and seal it. Stretch it tight. Fold it over. Use thumbkins to stuff it in. You want a little overlap on the dough, and that's it. And then tuck the ends in, and it's perfect. Now, the mistake I made was on my baking tray, I put too many. I should have spaced them out and used 2 sheets. I screwed up, and the problem was when I tried to separate them, they were stuck together, so the sides of some of them got ripped open. It made eating it just slightly more messy, so don't do what I did. You're going to bake it for 350 degrees for 18 to 20 minutes. Again, I overcrowded my tray, so they didn't get the proper browning that I wanted them to. But they did look beautiful, and they were delicious. Look at that cross-section. Look at this. Look at that. So simple, so delicious. You need to make this. You need to. I can't wait to taste this. They say the simplest recipes make the most delicious food. It really doesn't get much more simple than this. I mean, it's a basic bread, basic meat, cabbage, onions, and seasoning. Not much to it, and cheese if that's the way you went. I went with the cheese, and I tasted the not cheese, and that was delicious because I was hungry and I'm cooking and I had to eat. So for the big reveal, I saved the one with cheese. Look at that. That looks so good. Let's go for it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Very simple. It's not like a punch in the face with flavor. It's just so comforting. Something you definitely want to eat. These are popular at college football games. I can see why. These things will definitely warm you up. So there you go, folks. The Runza. That was absolutely delicious. I hope you try this out. If you want to see me make something, if you have a suggestion of a recipe, drop it down in the comments. You want to tell me I suck or I did something wrong, drop that down in the comments. I don't care. But I hope you smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for watching.